Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty amazing that's happening in the humanities. It's this quiet renaissance where scholars are doing more than just reading books. They're starting to think with their hands, literally building their ideas into existence. Let's get into what that actually means.
You hear this question all the time, right? In a world that's all about STEM, coding, and job skills, you have to wonder, where do things like literature and history fit in? Are they just becoming obsolete? That's the big challenge we're going to tackle today.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic debate. For a lot of universities, this question of relevance is a very real, very urgent problem. The reality is, a ton of schools are seeing fewer and fewer students signing up for humanities programs, and it's all driven by this nagging question about the practical value of it all. It's a pretty ironic crisis when you think about it. A field dedicated to finding meaning is having its own meaning questioned. Okay, but here's where it gets interesting. Out of this crisis, a really powerful and kind of unexpected solution is starting to take shape. There's this whole movement that says the best way to understand the world isn't just to read about it, but to build it. It's a return to this super old school idea of learning by doing.
So, what do we even mean by making here? Well, we're not just talking about arts and crafts. Think of it as a whole different way of knowing. A philosophy that says the act of creating something is actually a form of thinking. It's all about connecting the hand and the mind to create not just things, but real understanding.
This quote from the scholar Stephen Ramsey just nails it. Building is a form of reading. And that idea is a total game changer. It means that when you create something, whether it's a 3D model or a piece of code, you're not replacing interpretation. You are interpreting, just in a physical, tangible way.
Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds very new, very techy. But the wild part is, this idea is ancient. The humanities aren't inventing something new here. They're actually just reclaiming a huge part of their own forgotten history.
I mean, just look at the history. You go back to ancient Greece, and Aristotle was talking about techne, the idea that craft is a form of reason. Then you've got the Renaissance celebrating homo faber, or man the maker, with the belief that you only truly know something if you've made it. Fast forward to the 19th century and the arts and crafts movement, which was all about pushing back against industrialization. And today's maker culture, it's just the next step in that long line, now supercharged with digital tools. So here's the deal. For the last few centuries, we've kind of created this split. We decided that abstract thought, knowing about things, was way more important than the hands-on skill of making things. This new maker movement is trying to heal that divide. It's a reminder that thinking doesn't just happen in our heads. It's something we do with our entire bodies, with our hands, out in the world.
Okay, so that's all the theory. But what does this actually look like in a classroom? Like in a real literature or history class? This is where it gets really, really cool.
So instead of just writing another essay on a novel, students are now building their interpretations. Think about it. One book could become a 3D printed sculpture of its plot, or an interactive video game where you have to make the tough moral choices the characters face. You could build a digital map that tracks a journey, or even create an augmented reality filter that drops you right into a key scene. You're not just looking at the text anymore, you're wrestling with it, testing it, and seeing it in a completely new light.
And this isn't just a hypothetical. It's happening right now at some of the best universities. The Maker Lab at the University of Victoria is rebuilding historical technology. At MIT, the Open Doc Lab is creating these incredible, immersive documentaries. Over at Duke, the Wired Lab is building virtual 3D tours of buildings that no longer exist. This is serious, cutting-edge work.
But wait, it actually goes a layer deeper than that. Because making isn't just for understanding things that already exist. It's also a really powerful way to ask some tough questions about the world we live in now.
And that brings us to this idea called critical making. It's a term that was coined by a researcher named Matt Ratto, and it's all about using the act of building to critique society. You're creating things that don't just work, but that make people stop and think.
Which, you have to admit, leads to a pretty fascinating question. How do you build an argument that someone can actually hold in their hands? How can a physical object make a really sharp political point?
Well, it's about embedding tough questions right into the things you create. A critical maker doesn't just build a new gadget. They build it to ask things like, whose values are baked into the code of this app? What's the hidden history of the materials inside my phone? Who gets to use this new technology and who gets left out? The object itself becomes a conversation starter for these huge critical issues.
So, what does this all add up to for the future of the humanities? Well, it suggests that their future might not just be written in books. It's being actively built, piece by hand.
So why is this whole maker thing such a big deal? Well, for one, it's collaborative. It gets people with different skills working together. It's embodied, right? It closes that gap between thinking and doing. It's also deeply ethical because it forces you to think about the real-world consequences of your ideas. But maybe most importantly, it's relevant. It answers that practical value question head-on by making deep humanistic thinking into something tangible, visible, something you can literally hold.
And when you boil it all down, this whole movement is about a really beautiful and powerful idea. It's not just about cool tech. It's about translating what we actually care about, our values, our questions, our histories, into a physical form.
So, back to our original question, are the humanities obsolete? Honestly, not even close. They're out there literally building the future. They're taking ancient wisdom, combining it with new tools, and creating something totally new. They're making arguments you can touch and experiences you can feel, which kind of leaves us with one last big question. The future is something we all have to build. So, what future are we going to make together?